while one anonymous phone caller had been traced, sending Hull police on a long but ultimately fruitless line of inquiry in their search for the arsonist who had killed 3 young boys. Another went untraced. After the fire, the Hasty family had been rehoused in another area of the city, but one night just before Christmas, Tommy Hasty received an anonymous phone call from a man sobbing into the phone saying, "I'm sorry I killed your kids." A couple of weeks later, the Central Police Station in Hull received a similar phone booth call, confessing to starting the Hasty fire. When he was asked for his name, he wailed, "No, no, no," and put the phone down. In any well-publicized murder investigation, the police regularly have to deal with false confessions from crackpots and attention seekers, and this one was no different. But the call was recorded all the same, even though the identity of the caller could not be established. That trail had long since gone cold by the time Detective Superintendent Ron Sager and his team decided to interview any local homosexuals who were known to frequent the same public restrooms as the Rover car driver they had followed. Among those interviewed was a 19-year-old man calling himself Bruce George Peter Lee. He had changed his name from Peter Dinsdale in the summer of 1979, in honor of his idol, Kung Fu film star Bruce Lee. And he said he not only knew Charlie Hasty, but had been involved in indecent behavior with him. This provided a definite, if not provable, connection between the eldest Hasty boy and the city's gay scene. So it was decided that several possible suspects would be brought in for questioning on the same day, and Sager would accuse each of them in turn, in the hope that the real killer would confess. When Bruce Lee was brought in, Sager read him his rights, then wasted no time. "Bruce," he said, "I'll be quite blunt with you. I think that you started that fire at the Hasty family's house, and that indecency with Charlie is probably the cause of it all somehow." Lee's reply stunned Sager. "I didn't mean to kill them," he said. He went on to explain that he had set the fire to get back at Charlie Hasty, who had continually demanded money from Lee after mucking about, wanking, masturbating, and that. Hasty also threatened to tell the police about their indecency if Lee didn't keep giving him money. There was also another motive. Lee had become infatuated with Charlie's 16-year-old sister Angie. He had repeatedly asked her to be his girlfriend, but she rejected his advances. Indeed, she and her brothers regarded Lee as an irritating hanger-on and would take pleasure in mocking him. Indeed, Lee, who had an educationally subnormal IQ, was a frequent figure of ridicule and contempt among his peers, something that came as no surprise to Sager when he met Lee in the flesh. He was not a normal young man. He was deformed. His right arm and right leg were deformed. He had a limp. He had a habit of holding his right arm across his chest. He was poorly dressed. He was clearly undernourished, and on first impressions, one had to feel sorry for him. Of the night of December 4th, Lee recalled, "One night, I am thinking I am going to go to Charlie's house and set it on fire, give him a real frightener." He went on to tell Sager how he took a container full of paraffin and stood in the shadows underneath the motorway flyover for a good time until it went real quiet. He then described in detail walking up the path to the Hasty house, pouring the paraffin through the letterbox, and then, after 2 failed attempts to light matches, lit a piece of newspaper and pushed it through the letterbox to set the paraffin alight. This claim tallied with the newspaper, matches, and paraffin that were found at the scene. The details Lee knew about the fire convinced Sager that this was no confession-happy attention seeker. The Hasty boy's murderer had been found. What they didn't know at that point was that this confession was not going to be Bruce Lee's last.